In our first segment, though, we have trial attorney Lin McCraw, more than 20 years of experience. He's a past president of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association and is licensed to argue cases all the way up to the Supreme Court. He heads up the McCraw Law Firm, and thanks to his strong negotiating skills, he has a long track record of extremely favorable outcomes for his clients. Lin, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. You're in Dallas. You guys have even hotter temperatures than we have.
Oh, yes, sir, we do right now, and it's gonna get hotter this week for sure.
Well, I feel sorry for you, and especially those people over in Arizona. It must be horrible. I asked you to be with us this morning for a few cases to talk about, and the one that really kind of caught my attention a week or two ago was this lady who went to a Thai restaurant, ordered an item off the menu called Dragon Balls. Now, you're in a Thai restaurant, and if you know anything about those, you know they're usually feature some pretty spicy items. One would assume with a name like that it would be extremely spicy, and she says that not only was it spicy, but in her lawsuit, the restaurant's Dragon Balls appetizer was so spicy that she suffered burns on her vocal cords, esophagus, and nose. Now, what constitutes a frivolous lawsuit as compared to one that's viable?
Well, for frivolous lawsuits are defined in law as a case that has no basis in fact or in law, no basis whatsoever. Many times, the difference between something being frivolous and something not being frivolous, as I was taught when I was a young lawyer, sometimes that can be in the eye of the beholder. So the law takes a view in which cases can be brought that some may find have very little merit, and some find have quite a bit of merit. There are strictures in place though that really limit what can be done, and those are mainly done based on the lawyers that are involved. So for instance, if a lawyer brings a case that he knows has no factual basis whatsoever, that lawyer can be sanctioned. That lawyer can even lose his or her license, and we've seen that happen in the political realm quite often for cases with no base in fact whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Now, in a case like this, these are different cases because really what happens in these cases is we're kind of drawing the lines. We're drawing the lines between what's reasonable and what's not reasonable in particular areas. And you got to remember that in the United States, we're a state-by-state basis type of country. This particular case happened in San Francisco, and something that might happen in San Francisco and be considered acceptable may not be considered acceptable in Lexington, Kentucky, or in Dallas, Texas.
I see.
It's going to depend upon the really, when you look at these facts on particularly these restaurant cases, you've got to look at expectations. What are the client expectations? What are the expectations based on what you call the dish? And what are the expectations of, do we have what type of warnings and that sort of thing we're given? I mean, those are all the facts that you kind of look at when you go in.
Right.
I would expect a dish called Dragon Balls to be quite hot.
Right.
However, I would not expect it to lead to permanent damage of vocal cords. Now that may or may not be the case, but those are the allegations, and the lawyer is simply given an opportunity to prove those allegations. And the real magic in our system, the thing that really makes it work, is the Seventh Amendment, the right to trial by jury, and that is to have folks from everyday walk of life take a look at this and say, okay, is this one of those situations that we ought to protect people from, or is this one of those situations that a person really ought to be able to protect themselves from? Again, those are expectations types of situations, and like I said, that's one of the things that really separates these restaurant cases from some of the other cases.
Our phone line's 859-253-5959. It's also our Stuttgart Motors text line, and here's our text from Elmo. Elmo says, what about the new McDonald's case with the chicken nugget burning in the person's daughter? A jury awarded $800,000 to the girl burned by a chicken McNugget. How do you feel about that case?
Well, again, these restaurant cases are all very, very fact specific. I remember when I was a young lawyer, there was a McDonald's case that came out of Texas, hot coffee case.
Oh yeah, that's right. That sort of started the ball rolling, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It was roundly lampooned as we need tort reform and that sort of thing because look, this person gets millions of dollars from the jury. I happen to know the lawyer that tried the case.
Really?
And yes, and we were at a continuing education course together, and very, very nice guy, very humble, quiet. And I was talking to him about the case, and he said, "Look, that case, we were trying to settle that case for the out-of-pocket expenses the woman had to have for the reconstructive surgery when this hot coffee was spilled on her lap." I said, "Oh, reconstructive surgery? I didn't hear about that in the news."
No.
But yeah, she had third-degree burns all over her genitalia, and it said it was terrible. They would do nothing. I had no choice but to bring the case, and I brought the case. And then, long story short, as he goes on and on and on about, we have the trial, we get the big verdict. Everybody goes crazy because we get a big verdict. It gets appealed, and at the end of the day, after the Court of Appeals reduces it, the lawyer ended up losing money on the case.
No kidding.
So, So it was one of those situations that all he was trying to do was get some out-of-pocket costs for his client to have reconstructive surgery from it being spilled on him. I suspect that that's a similar type of result that will probably end up happening with the chicken nugget situation. Just because a jury gives a verdict does not mean that verdict will hold and that verdict will turn into money.
Interesting.
Most of the time when you hear about jury verdicts that are extraordinary, it's because they are just that, extraordinary. They're out of the realm of normal, and very often those verdicts get appealed, and very often they get reduced or even taken away by the courts of appeals. So it's not a final thing, but it does tell you something. It tells you that members of our community looked at the case, and they looked at the facts and circumstances and said, look, there's something about this case that is something that we should not want. It is something that exposes us to danger in one form or another. And that's likely what happened here. None of us will know all of the facts and circumstances that the jury considered. All we know is a 5-second blurb, and that 5-second blurb sometimes can be misleading. So I can't give you what is my feeling on that particular case because I don't know all the facts and circumstances.
Sure.
But I will tell you that I have a lot of faith in our system for making sure and ferreting out the stuff that's truly frivolous from the stuff that's not.
And we have another text here from our Stuttgart Motors text line. Lynn says, this is getting into politics now. Don't know if this is your area or not, but it says, what are the chances Trump goes to jail on any of the many charges he is currently under indictment on? I think he hopes that he'll win the election and be able to pardon himself. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I try to stay out of the politics when it comes to this stuff. I'll tell you that I can tell you that at least watching the civil cases that have been filed out of this have been very interesting. And when you guys were mentioning the frivolous cases and what's frivolous and what's not, there is a little bit of a tie-in there from the standpoint that a number of his lawyers have had problems with the law license, and it's not normally because they're facing a bunch of liberals in their trial bars. What's really happening is, remember when I said a frivolous case is a case that has no there are no facts at all that support what you're saying, or no logical extension of the law that would get you there. That has been where some of the lawyers that were challenging, for instance, the 2020 results have gotten themselves into trouble. One of the guardrails that we have in our legal system are the lawyers, and the lawyers have a different duty. We have a duty to make sure that we've done at least some basic investigation before we file a lawsuit. And if we don't do that, then the courts get clogged up with cases that that they really shouldn't be clogged up with, and that's what happened to a number of the lawyers that have been dealing with some of those cases. So I've been following that. Now, when it comes to President Trump's criminal allegations, those sort of things are so political that whether somebody did an act or didn't do an act, whether it was criminal or not criminal, in the end, whether somebody goes to jail for it or not, it becomes so political that I just don't take a position on it, because honestly, you're not going to change anybody's mind one way or another, and it's just something that we need to let the jury system work out. I do have faith in our juries, and there was a time many moons ago that I tried quite a few criminal cases, and I'll tell you that the juries have a way of sniffing through the bull. Yeah. Juries have a way of in the end, when they see somebody that they don't feel is being treated appropriately by the powers that be, by prosecuting authorities, they have a way of making things right. And the Sixth Amendment in the criminal actions and Seventh Amendment in the civil actions are there to protect each one of us from the government. They're there to protect each one of us from others. From corporations and other citizens that would harm us. So, like I said, I have great faith that the juries will get it right. There may be some actions that are legitimate. There may be some actions that are not. President Trump may go to jail. He may not. But in the end, our citizens will fairly weigh that, and most of them, whether they're liberal or conservative, in the end, they don't want to see our politicians go to jail just because the other side wins an election.
Yeah.
Most of them want to make absolutely sure that the politician did something that we have passed criminal statutes and said that is a crime. That is something that should not happen in our society. That's abusive in one form or another. That's why we have juries. And President Trump will get the benefit of a jury just like any other citizen would.
And should.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I have a really good friend. He's no longer with us, but he was an attorney, and he was sort of a general attorney. By that I mean he did divorce cases, and he did wills, and he did just about anything came along. He ran into a guy in a tiki bar in Jamaica who was from Boston, and he was a personal injury attorney. Now, this was back many years ago when there weren't any or very many, and he talked my friend into going into that, and when he came back, my friend came back, he booked a flight to Boston and went up there and met with this guy for a couple of days and came back and became a personal injury attorney. I bring that up because, we are such a litigious society, and you can't listen to the radio very long or watch too many TV shows before you see ads for these personal injury attorneys. Is that the reason that everybody wants to sue everybody now?
No, that's not the reason people want to sue each other. What happens is you got to understand that these lawyers they're only paid when they win a case.
Right.
The lawyers are actually what they're doing is they're competing for the best cases. They're competing for cases that in which they have a better chance of higher returns on them.
Sure.
That's normal in a capitalistic society. That's something that I remember in testifying in front of our legislature. Somebody was really upset about billboard ads or about lawyers saying I got X $million on this case or that case.
Right.
And I pointed out. I said, look, that's really no different than the billboard you see for the doctor who's wanting to fix somebody's eyes, or the
yeah.
or any other, or car dealer or any other thing. It is just simply an ad that people are trying to market their wares to the best of their possibilities. Now, the fact that you see so many of them is simply because some of those cases are very lucrative. But for every case that's very lucrative, we have a lot of cases out there that are what I'll call the cat and dog law kind of cases, in which they're not always that lucrative, but they're cases that need to be handled. They're cases that people need help in taking care of their disputes and dealing with their disputes. And there's a need to make sure that those disputes are handled, and they're handled in an efficient manner. I don't think in this situation that merely placing ads, pushes demand. That's really not how it works. It kind of works in the opposite. The demand is already there. The actions have already happened.
I see.
The 18-wheeler has already killed the person, or already maimed the person. The issue now becomes, can that person get the best legal help that they can get? What are their choices, and how do the lawyers put themselves out there in front of those particular clients?
My friend went to a seminar many, many years ago where Morgan, the older gentleman of Morgan & Morgan, spoke, and he said by the, I don't know, he threw out some timeline. He said, I'll have, all you guys in this room will be working for me. Is his firm indeed the largest of its kind in the world?
I'm not sure about in the world, but it certainly is the largest in the United States. Morgan & Morgan's grown significantly with a very, very active marketing plan. In fact, I heard an ad while I was on listening on your radio station just a few moments ago.
Right.
There are in the United States, at least traditionally, the markets have been really broken up into smaller markets. We're seeing a lot of consolidation among the law firms in which you have more consistent and higher revenue, and some of the personal injury firms would certainly qualify for that. So we are seeing some consolidation, and that's allowing firms like Morgan & Morgan to grow bigger and bigger.
Lin, I appreciate you being with us. It was great information. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Jack. I appreciate it.